All right, here's your slate.
There you go. All right, ready?
Let's do it.
All right, so this is Season 1, Episode 4, The Bent Mountain Mill. Take one.
Sound speed, camera rolls.
One and done. This is all, if it was live, it'd be the same thing.
And make sure you get up on that thing. You sound a little weak today.
Yeah, not feeling.
I don't mean personally.
Okay.
Audio-wise.
Good. All right, so stay right there.
All right, let's get into the episode. This is Season 1, Episode 4 of the Black Dog Salvage podcast.
Right, cue the music. I got to learn how to play that.
I guarantee you Wyatt can play.
Just the acoustic part.
Yeah, we'll have Wyatt come in on one of these and play. Hello.
Everybody, Mike Whiteside here.
Tay Whiteside joining back in the studio.
Yeah, we're
on air.
having some fun doing this. It's become a weekly.
It has.
It gives me something to do on Thursday.
Well, as you transition into your retired chapter of life.
Retirementhood, yeah.
Yeah, you're tired or retired.
Retired, yeah, more like retired. Tired of being retired.
Tired. Make sure you say that.
I hear it's worth doing, by the way.
Retiring?
Yeah.
You know, it's something that's not, I don't think, celebrated enough in our culture.
Well, it's going to be celebrated a lot now because the baby boomers are retiring, and I am a boomer.
I heard a term from my buddy Aaron in specific regard to old guys leaving the trades,
right?
And no one really coming in to replace them. The term is called the silver tsunami.
Ooh.
For all the old gray hairs leaving the trades and no one stepping in to
take
their space.
It's getting ready to knock you down. So get out there and find a trade. Find an old gray hair guy to teach you something.
They've forgotten more than you will ever know about that trade.
Yeah, I don't really have a trade. I mean, I used to.
Sure, you do.
I guess I do. Yeah.
We talked a bit about it in the first episode.
I was a
here.
professional mariner. That was one of my trades.
Well, as of yet, the Black Dog Salvage podcast has brought Black Dog's YouTube ad revenue up to $60 for the past 28 days.
We're rocking, man.
Rolling
Rocking it. You know, it's a multiple. It's all about numbers, isn't it?
You just got to stack episodes.
Yeah, just try not to suck. That's one of my key things every morning is just get up and do what I got to do and try not to suck the rest of the day.
Well, speaking of YouTube, this podcast is also available on YouTube, Black Dog Salvage's YouTube channel. And I missed one of the comments from 2 weeks ago on the original reboot episode left by the one and only Jason Elias.
Okay. Oh, Jason.
Jason, who helped produce those first 6 episodes we had with guests.
Yeah. He was behind the scene.
And his comment is in relation to a comment I made where I said those 6 episodes may have been overproduced.
Oh my gosh! What did he say?
He goes, overproduced. I might offer professionally produced. And honestly, I'm super glad to see you guys back. So no AMF just yet.
Okay, yeah, I know what AMF stands for.
Is it? Can you say it?
It's Adios MF. Yeah.
All right. So
I still don't feel comfortable.
No. Yeah. It's probably not for the best. At least not within the first of the algorithm. If you do it in the first 10 minutes, you get flagged. Later on, they assume no one's watching anymore, so you can say whatever you want.
Cussing is. I'm a former Navy guy, and they call it the Navy comma.
Right. It's just in between
it's
every.
It's just Phil, F this and F that, and so,
it's not necessary. Sometimes it can add color.
It does, but you got to use it properly, just like in comedy. You got to hit it at the right time instead of just MFing all the time or.
Well, then it loses its pizzazz.
Yeah. There's no punch.
Right.
At that point. So anyway, that's enough about cussing online.
So that was Jason. Jason helped us produce, and I was a little weary going off on our own. I didn't want to step on any toes, and he in fact was over the moon, happy for us to.
Well, he showed us the ropes. He showed us one way of doing it, and we could always get back to that more heavily produced if we get a chance to do it. But this is raw.
I like it.
Yeah, it's us. It's who we are. It's how we talk. And, of course, the other ones, I ended up listening to a couple of those produced ones, our first ones.
Yeah.
And one with Grayson in it. And it was good. I mean, it was good. And kudos to Jason. He cut it really well.
He edited all that.
Because we were heavily edited, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, this segment right here is brought to you by Miller Lite. Did you hear that sound? I should have opened it up in the front of the microphone.
Is this one available?
That is definitely one. I brought you a Yingling.
This is the traditional lager, America's oldest brewery.
Yeah, up in Pottstown, I think.
Here's some ASMR for you.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers, man. Oh, even they talk about some ASMR. They heard you sipping it. For those of you that are grossed out by that sort of thing, well, sorry.
Explain what ASMR is. Gracie.
ASMR means like autonomic sensory meridian response or something.
Yeah.
It's
sound.
It's the practice of getting really quiet and getting up into the mic, and they can hear your mouth.
Okay.
They can hear your mouth make noise as you talk. Yeah, I'm not a personal fan. It doesn't do anything for me, but some people really like it. You know, the crinkling of a bag of chips.
Oh, yeah.
Or
the squeaking of a chair, whatever it is.
Yeah. And, right,
so there you go for
that. Thus concludes the ASMR
a little
segment
education
of the podcast.
today.
Another YouTube comment we got from Cindy Dolezal. Do you not have access to images from the show? It would be great to see images of some of the people and things you talk about. Also, I asked about a hat Mike was wearing last episode. It's the one with just a black dog on it, not your logo.
Okay, there's a couple questions there. First off was what was the first question?
Do we have access to images from the show?
Yeah, the answer is no. We didn't own it. We don't own the IT or IP, intellectual property of the show, because the network bought it and they own it. Now, they will sell it, I'm sure, because they sell it every day when they put us on the Magnolia channel. You know, so it's copyrighted and trademarked.
Another interesting, specifically relating to stills, Trailblazer always paid someone on their team to take still images of the shoots, and as far as I know, those images never went anywhere.
Yeah,
which is why I started photographing our jobs, because that we owned.
If we took it, we can use it. So.
And there's a big library. I think it's still on y'all's server. So
all right, we'll try and dig them up. I don't know how easy it is to put them on for the show here, but we can
the
put
post-production budget's going to have to.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, we got $60 to spend on it. So there you go.
Yeah, $60 a month.
Well, I get you.
I'll take about an hour.
Yeah. Okay, that's good enough. You know.
And then the second question she had was in regard to a hat you were wearing, not with the logo on it, but just a black
dog.
Do you remember what that is?
I do exactly. I do know what that is. There's a place in Martha's Vineyard and the city or the little town's called Vineyard Haven, and there's a little tavern called The Black Dog.
Oh, cool!
And that's the dog, the lab silhouette. And I had the opportunity when I was sailing and boating. We would go up there. That was a good place to hang out, and it was fun and walk around, real cute. I don't know if you've ever been there, you know. So I met by chance, and I won't go into all how we met. The guy who started it, a guy named Bob Douglas. And, hey, you doing, man?
Mail's here.
Mail's here.
Thanks.
All right. There you go. A little interruption there. Bob Douglas started the Black Dog, and they have made millions on it. Wow. I mean, besides the tavern and the beer and everything. And he's got a really colorful past. He was a boat builder and sailor, and he built a boat called Shenandoah that is still sailing today. He sailed it for 50 years, and now he's got it up.
Your chair just collapsed.
I didn't pay my bill. And so it's a boat for seagoing school. Kind of a tutoring. You sail this boat. It does not have a main drive motor in it. It's all sail.
Wow.
And they sail it onto the mooring. They sail it off the mooring. It's pretty amazing. It's called a topsail schooner, so it's got a big square rig on top. And this guy is a legend.
What was his name again?
His name is Bob Douglas.
He's still alive?
Yep. Got a call from him the other day when he was asking. I sold some capstans that we had in one of our shows, and he wanted to know where they came from, which, unfortunately, the guy who we bought them from, Captain Heckard, has passed on.
Heckard.
He's gone, right. And he's the guy who knew. But that's how I got that hat. I made sure before they left that I swagged them up. They were wearing Black Dog like crazy, and so he sent me a hat and a T-shirt. and I cherish it.
Well, I did not expect such a colorful story to come from a question about a hat.
Every hat I have has a story.
Well, and
every one.
I take back a small portion of the criticism I give you.
Well, you can take it too far sometimes, but my hats are functional. I got one here. It's Parker, and that's a hydraulic fitting company.
I tell you what, they make some of the best hoses and fittings.
They make a pretty doggone good hat, too.
Well, someone makes it, and they put their logo on it.
Anyway, I got a head for hats.
Well, that'll be a side game of the podcast is keep a tally of how
identify
many
the hats. Yeah, you'll get 10% off anything on Black Dog for if you can identify the hat.
Oh, okay. And then we'll give the answer in the following.
Right. But of course, you can't do Black Dog because you know what that is.
Yeah, we know that. Okay, so this week's a pass.
All right, so we'll do that as part of our thing.
You remember when we did the podcast with the Upcycle Canada folks?
Yes.
They left us a comment on the last video. Hey, guys, love the reboot of the podcast. Question for you. Would love to hear more about your Black Dog hauler vehicle. We remember the post when it was being sold. Loved your fleet of vehicles on the show. Where did the hauler end up? Much love from Dave and Jen up at Upcycle Canada.
Cool. Well, I tried to sell it. Couldn't seem to give it away.
The vehicle in question, to back up, it was a 1993 Freightliner chassis.
Right.
That was overhauled in the early 2000s with a camper or RV body and a sort of garage toy hauler section at the back.
Right. It was a fifth wheel to start, so it had the front end.
Yeah.
And then the guy we bought it from put the garage on it, and it had that air door that about killed everybody. And so that's how we got. So it was a show hauler modification. It's
but like full 18-wheeler.
It was
Fuller 11-speed transmission,
50,000 pounds. It was a beast. And
Yeah.
and we had to lock it up. I had to lock it up a few times. You're going like you're pressing your foot in there, going like, okay, come on,
where the brakes,
come
old
on.
school air
and then,
brakes,
and then you hit it, and it just locks them up.
Oh yeah.
I threw Robert across the cabin one time doing that.
Didn't do it on purpose. It was our mobile HQ, and some of the fondest memories we have, I think, are all the traveling we did. And Robert tried to always set up a mobile office with a wireless hotspot, because the work could never stop. But one of the funniest things to me, and a recurring joke to all of us, was how frustrated he would get at the lack of service when we're in between
cell towers,
BFE and the small town we're heading to, and he just get sound like Yosemite Sam.
Yeah, it was you could tell if we lost cellular or our internet, it wasn't a good day.
But if not for him, we were all laughing.
Oh, I had a great time. It didn't bother us at all.
So, and then it ended up somewhere.
So we donated it to Veterans Golf Association, and it's a nonprofit that helps veterans play golf. And these guys are out of Pinehurst.
God bless them.
If you know where Pinehurst is, it's a
nice golf area.
Yeah, it's 20-something courses around there. It's really, it's top shelf golf. And they bought it, and then they went to I took it to a company called Servco. I think that's how it's called. Anyway, it's out in the North Carolina wilderness, and these guys do specialty vehicles. And they took it on, they redid it, and if I could put it in and show you the picture, it turned out great. They gutted it, they redid the inside. And it
needed that bad.
So it's rolling again. It's got a lot of good stuff in it, and it's fun. It's a good little cigar bar kind of thing,
Well, and that's so they're like, donated it. Why didn't you give it to me? Well, it's
Well, it's sometimes you can get more out of a donation than you can by trying to get rid of it. Sell it.
Tax break.
Yeah. Well, you got to make some money to need a tax break, and every once in a while we'll make a buck and need it. But anyway, that's where it went.
There it is.
It'll be on the highway. You see the VGA golf wagon. It's obviously heading towards South Florida probably. It's going to a lot of the PGA competitions.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for it.
Well, I've volunteered to drive it a few times. They didn't take me up on it, but.
Real quick, two more. John Holman asks, I was wondering if the spirit guide with a mullet has shown up lately.
I've never seen him.
Makes me laugh every time I think about that story.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Do you remember what he's talking about?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was talking about the spirits behind me. spirit guide.
Oh, right.
Guardian angel kind of thing, And he was
That's how I would.
yeah, I think it was Randy, and he had a mullet. This is a seer, if you believe in that, and I do. Told me this, and that my spirit guide was sporting a mullet. So there you go.
It's so appropriate.
Yeah, I'm bringing a mullet back, by the way. You got to see Gracie. She's really got one going.
Family, it's a matter of time. Mom kind of has a perm type thing too, so it's a matter of time before I get a mullet.
Nah, it's a acquired taste.
Here's the last question we got, and this was from the Salvage Dogs fan page on Facebook. Sue Cessner Brown asks, "What is a podcast?"
This. It's just people sitting around talking about stuff. That's pretty much it.
It's a radio show. It's the modern version of a radio show.
Exactly. We could
with
have
video.
We could have theater. That's what this is. So, just Google podcasts if you Google, and you'll find them. Anything you want. There's podcasts that I listen to, which is one that's called Pivot with what's her name, Swisher. Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway.
There's a million of them.
There's a million. Joe Rogan. All these podcasters. Everybody's doing a podcast, so we're not different here. We're just
trying to be like everybody.
We're just trying to stay relevant. That's all we're trying to do.
No, and also we've addressed this, but we just inundated for 3 years since the show dropped off. Where'd you go? What's next? What's happening? And this is just such an easy and fun way to continue to interact with everyone.
Yeah, and
it's fun for us selfishly to rehash these fun stories
and tell stories and just bring everybody up to speed on what's happening.
Speaking of what's happening, today we are talking about Season 1, Episode 4, the Bent Mountain Mill. And the episode opens with a wow. Robert brings in the exerciser. You remember that thing?
Is that the roller? Or the jiggle machine. Yeah, I remember that. That was back, those were back in the 50s and early 60s, probably more like 40s and 50s when, you didn't have to do anything. You just kind of stood there. That was a roller that we had that, you roll your fat right off your leg. And, and it felt really good if you didn't get caught up in it. If you got something caught in it.
That roller would take a finger off.
I'm telling you what, it would probably roll you right up. You look like, Yosemite Sam or somebody.
Wile E. Coyote flattened by a rock.
But the one that we had in the show was the belt.
Yes, it had these offset wheels on the end, and you put this leather belt on it, and you put it around your spare tire,
your jiggly parts. Yeah.
And you hold a martini and you light a cigarette
at the same time. Exactly,
and the weight just falls off.
They were all good for you, by the way. It's pretty funny to watch and through our series, we get some stuff in that is pretty wild, like foot X-ray machine and things of that nature.
You may know the story about. Well, I'm not gonna get sidetracked.
Yeah,
those feet X-ray machines that were real quick. The salesman that would go demo them for people, their feet would fall off.
They wouldn't last long.
They've been X-raying their feet every 2 days, demoing the machine
and smoking and drinking at the same time. So
right,
there you go.
Right. One thing that I don't know why I thought this, but when you were getting shook by the machine, your keys were still clipped to your pants.
Yeah.
And just a sidebar, the sound of your keys was iconic.
This is my identifier.
Like that's how I knew you were coming.
Yeah.
And if you were slacking off, that would be the
signal. If I was walking slow or walking fast. Ching, ching, ching.
Yeah.
Ching.
It just had I don't know what combination of keys and carabiner you had, but it was a very specific.
That's a real Navy thing. I used to carry the keys on a carabiner on the outside of my pockets. I'd clip in.
Yeah.
I'd ride my motorcycle and it'd just be dangling. It's not very smart, really. But
you might lose everything.
Everything, except the key that's hooked to the ignition. But that's that was part of it. I didn't undress for this. Thank goodness.
Do you remember where that machine came from? We probably already had it.
Yeah, who knows? Shop, we just get stuff all the time, but I couldn't tell you. It's been a while.
Well, then we jump in from the wow to the round table, which is where we sit around and plan for the week, quote unquote. I noticed my beard was starting to come in.
You still had that baby face, still
I had
round cheeks,
post acne face, and I had the beard was trying to fight the acne for rights to the real estate on my face.
Well, I'm glad you won.
Me too.
You look good.
I had terrible acne in high school.
I know, poor thing.
So we cover what was happening, the grist mill, Charlie up in Bent Mountain.
Charlie Van Name.
We're going to tackle a ramshackle shack and the millstones.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting thing because Bent Mountain is just up on the plateau over going west or southwest of Roanoke. It rises up probably 1,000+ feet to this plateau, and first part of it's called Bent Mountain. And a lot of our friends live there. Matter of fact, Cameron, his family, Cameron, he runs our shop for us, and Larry Florin and Lynn, his lovely wife, live up there. And there's a lot of cool people up there. But Charlie Van Name was kind of a hermit. He was from New Jersey.
He and his dog J. Edgar Hoover. You remember that?
Yeah, he would always.
He'd say, "Jagger, come here."
This guy had stories, man. He could just go on and on, and I mean, it went on for a while. I went up and saw him a couple of times, but we got this job through. What's the guy's name? You said Dennis, but I don't know if it was it.
I think it is Dennis. It was an interesting cat. He had real long gray hair. He had this like Native American vibe around him, and he was funny, but really liked to talk about Dennis.
Well, he liked to, yeah, and he thought he would be a good episode for a reality show, and we sicked him on Clark, if you remember.
The producer.
I said, the guy over there with the headsets on, and I was pointing at Clark McCarthy Miller, our producer at the time. I said, he's the guy you need to talk to. And he went over there and just wore him out.
Yeah. Well, he wore everyone out.
Yeah, but he did a pick one. I mean, a drive-in on one of our episodes.
In the future ones,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah. But he came to us and said, I got this this mill up here that I don't own, but I've got the rights to sell it. I said, okay, well, let's go up and take a look at it.
I wonder how he brokered that
And
deal.
so, well, he prayed. I think we paid him $2,000 for it.
Dennis?
Yeah.
And so
him for the rights
for
to
his
it. But his fee to Charlie Van Names, I think, was 20 cases of Genesee cream ale.
Yeah, and I remember that. I think I called the Kroger to place the order ahead of time, so we picked it up on the way.
We had to go to a couple different stores.
I don't think I was 21 at the time, and I was calling Kroger. Do you have 20 cases of? It was a 30 rack. 30 racks of this. It's a green box Genesee cream ale.
Yeah.
After that job, I remember in my college days, we would play drinking games with Genesee cream ale because you could get 30 of them for like $13.
It was cheap.
Or something.
So we ended up.
That was what we paid Charlie.
That's what we paid Charlie for it, and I paid him a little bit after the fact because this guy took advantage.
By the way, that's what he asked to be paid.
Right.
We didn't just decide to give some.
No,
poor
but
guy.
this other guy worked us a little bit, and hey, it was a good episode, but we never traded with him much after that.
There was the vibes were odd.
Yeah, he just wanted to be a part of the whole thing, and I was like, no.
Well, we saw something in him that happened to a lot of guests' appearances on the show. It's easy to think that when the cameras are on, everything you say, every joke you make, every story you tell is going to make it all the way into the episode.
Yeah.
And the reality is, even with stuff that we said, very little of it makes it. In fact, Robert says often that all his best work is on the cutting room.
That's because he was using the Navy comma on most of it. Yeah.
Nice callback.
So we did the deal, cut a check, and that was early on. So we weren't full of money. Not like we are now.
Come on, get those. Speaking of side hustles, Dad's on Cameo.
Oh, yeah.
You want Mike Whiteside to wish your friend a happy birthday or say something?
Go to Cameo and go to reality. And I'm in the very end of the reality stars.
Reality stars scroll all the way down.
Yeah. Whiteside, too, doesn't help either.
Yeah,
but
that's rad, though.
It's been fun. I've only done 2. I've been, I think I signed up 8 months ago.
What's your rate?
I'm cheap. Well, the first one was 25. I think this one was 40. I think my value's going up. I don't know how they rate
the
them.
value just keeps going up.
I'm humbled that anybody wants to even listen to me.
I've had some requests like that,
but it's
not
kind of
through
fun.
Cameo, but it's
kind of fun. Yeah, we do birthday wishes sometimes for folks, and anyway, that's where I've been.
Well, we're halfway through. Let's get into the salvage. We'll get to the Ted. Technically, in the order of the episode, Ted starts a build on a bar, utilizing some old world iron.
Yeah, he was learning welding then. That's when Ted came with us. He was our in-house welder. You were as well, but he's
first though. He was
before
and he was
you.
older. I wasn't. My chops. My what did you say? My teeth weren't quite cut.
Yeah. But Ted was a schooled welder, not a work welder. And he learned the welding thing at trade school.
Yeah.
And Ted's an insurance guy. He had an insurance company and just didn't like it very much. And he says, I'm going to work for you guys. I said, well, I don't have anything but a welder. So we went and got a welding license.
Cool.
Yeah. And he was the only qualified welder that we had.
Technically, I'm still not qualified.
Well, me neither, but
or certified.
But you'll weld circles around us.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was the start of the build. We used old world iron, and everybody says, "What's that?" It's old iron from the old world.
It was all
from Egypt.
Yeah. You got what, 8 containers of it or 6 containers of it?
We got 8 flatbeds, and I sent half of one out to California when we picked it up, and it was over. It's another long story, but real Reader's Digest version. We found some iron. Somebody had contacted us. Had this 200 tons of Egyptian iron
out in Minnesota or something.
Out in New Ulm, Minnesota. And we went out in February to look at this. Robert and I, we flew up and did a little road trip. It was cold.
Yeah, there's cold, and then there's Minnesota in February. It was cold.
It was out in the prairie, too. There was nothing to block it. So we were out there all dressed up looking at this iron, and we brought it back. We bought it with Craig Dale, Valhalla Imports, and his sidekick, Rodney. He was the barkeep.
Okay.
And we looked at it.
Craig Dale and his sidekick, Rodney.
Yeah. And so
sounds like a bad movie.
No, it's a good movie. It's still going on, by the way. We finally squared up with them, but they were very kind to us and gave us some time to pay for it.
Yeah.
And we're still building with it. So that's what this job was. It was from that iron. When you hear old world iron, for us,
Egyptian iron.
It came out of Egypt, Cairo, probably 20, 25 years ago.
And that was the story we sold, and it got a lot of people excited. It was cool. As I learned more about metalworking and metallurgy, it was cool to realize and internalize that what we were modifying and welding to and working with was once made hundreds and hundreds of years ago by hand.
Not 200, but 100 plus.
By hand in Egypt.
Right. And when everybody says, well, by hand, what do you mean? It's hand wrought. Wrought is to shape. So it was all handmade, not by your fist, but by mechanical means, probably.
The bars and the rounds.
And then there wasn't a weld on it. There was hot bands, which how they would join post and elements together. Then there was rivets. So they drill through. And I did a Daily Dog today about the last gate we have. A lot of this stuff had markings on it from Paris.
Interesting.
Because France had a lot of influence in Egypt back in those days, and a lot of that iron came in. As a matter of fact, it had markings that were from Paris, France, and
interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, it's high end stuff, and now we're down to the kind of the dregs now, which it's but that's okay. We've sold 3/4 of it. I think I got to do my math here, but
I wonder what the gross was on all that. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't even want to try and dig it that deep. Robert he wouldn't do it either. So, we did okay. We did all right. It took us years to pay for that debt, but it was good. So, old world iron, if you hear us say it, that's where it came from.
I'm sure we'll mention it again quite a few times.
Yep.
But to get back into the salvage opens with the arrival of an 18-ton crane on the site, and Robert starts giving you crap about the fact that you said it was going to be, quote, an easy job, and here comes an 18-ton crane to facilitate
I'm
your
always
easy job.
Come prepared.
Yeah.
An 18-ton crane can pick up 1 ton very easily.
Right.
It just can't pick up 20 tons easily.
That's quick math.
So, it's what they had, and the main
by the way, personally, 18-ton crane, I think, phenomenal idea.
It's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, go crane early, I think is what you do. Yeah. It had the reach I needed. I knew I had to get out there a little bit, and of course, if you do the math on cranes, you can't pick. You can pick less up as you extend out and drop down.
Right.
So the curve, the best pickup is when the crane's straight up and down or slightly
over the center of gravity.
Yeah, its pick is a little bit more. It changes, but I wanted to make sure we had enough, and of course this was early on, so I didn't want to just show up and say oops. When you get everybody going.
I mean, at the very minimum, we knew there were going to be millstones, which weigh 1,000 pounds apiece.
Yeah.
No crane is, I think, no plan.
Now, always go big. You know, that's me. I always say go Sawzall early. You know,
and it was plenty of space to drive it. It wasn't like we were downtown, some tight street.
So we had Mike Pay with us on this one. Mike was a fireman.
I love Pay.
Yeah, and it was local, so he went to work with us. And
the storyline of the episode was that Ted had to stay. We had it covered, so Ted stayed back to build this console.
Oh, is that right?
And while we went to salvage, because Ted wasn't on the salvage.
Oh, okay, didn't know that.
Dad, by the way, watched the wrong episode leading into this taping.
I'll know the next one.
You made great. Yeah, you'll lead. I'll lead this one. You lead the next one. It'll be great.
Got it.
But yeah, we had Mike Pay with us, and Lonnie came with us as well.
Lonnie, yeah, old Lonnie.
Yeah,
we had a
ragtag
bunch of interesting people.
Let's just put it that way.
You know, and Lonnie was one of them.
Hard worker, smart guy, funny.
Yep.
You know,
we'll
leave it at that point.
Yeah. But Mike was there. Good thing Mike was there because he's a trained fireman, so he's got first aid.
Yeah.
And he has a direct line to the guys. So if anything happened,
helicopter. Yeah.
So one of the stories of Mike was, and it's one of his lines that he said, and it really everybody laughs when I hear it. It's called the Jesus nail.
Yeah.
You know, because we're always taking stuff off and it's still hanging on. There's one nail. He says, once
as he put it, because I just watched it, he goes, the story goes that every building has a Jesus nail.
Right.
And once you pull that Jesus nail, you yell, "Oh, Jesus,"
oh, Jesus.
and everything falls down.
It's true. You know, you just got to make sure you tie it up before you pull the Jesus nail.
That was a running joke. That was where that came from.
Well, Robert and I used to do talking events, and that was part of the intro.
Yeah,
talking about what we did.
That's
Mike with the Jesus nail.
Not to jump the shark, but the set the scene where we're on Charlie's property.
Right.
A nice grass, pine trees, cool area.
Yeah.
Two buildings, was it, or one building?
There was one building, but there was another little shed off to the side. But
the corrugated metal shed was not where the millstones were, as I remember. That was a different.
Yeah, but this was an interesting setup because what we found is once we took everything apart, is that the mill itself, I called it a pumpkin. It was you could drop it in and drop it out. So
there was the original mill, and then they added on another mill that was like modular.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, exactly. I think there were two mills.
There were two,
and all the gearing underneath it and all. But this one, the one that we really, which was a cool one, was the modular one. I call it, like I said, a pumpkin because you just drop this thing in and mill. So you could take it and put it, put a horse in front of it and drag it to your neighbors. And as long as you had a power source,
right?
Water, wind, or
it will
diesel,
mill.
It'll mill, yeah. And it worked. And anyway, that was so we had to get that out, pulling the roof off. So I was trying to pull the roof off and move it off to the side, and I had a problem. I put the boom down too low. And there's a safety on the end of the boom.
Oh, I don't think they showed that. Because, again, I just watched it. And the narrative in the show went, well, we need to get to the roof.
Right.
We were going to pull the roof structure off, but the pine tree was in the way.
Right.
So the way they framed it in the show was we, on our own, decided to use the boom to extend to the tree, to then walk it, climb it up to it with a ladder, walk it with a chainsaw, and cut branches off of it, off the tree to then give the boom access to where we needed to go.
That was pretty much the Reader's Digest version of it, and I won't go too far.
Yeah.
But you were up. We were down. The boom was immobilized because it had tripped the weight on it.
So that's the real answer.
Yeah, that's why we went up there.
Yeah.
And
otherwise, we would have just probably retracted.
And that's why we said, "Do not film this." By the way, and then I said, "Get down," because I didn't want you to get hurt.
Yeah, I've noticed that I started it, and then at one point it cuts, and I'm sitting on the boom, and you're running the chainsaw.
Right. Yeah. There's just nothing good can happen. I'm not that well balanced to begin with, and so you got a working chainsaw. You're basically walking an I-beam, and it's 20 feet to the ground. And what can go wrong?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was still early on, so our risk tolerance was sky high.
Well, and we were cowboying it. There's no doubt.
And I think we were still oblivious at this time to the recourse we would receive when performing stunts like this on national television.
Well, again, and we got better, by the way.
This one
First,
lit the inbox.
Yeah,
up,
this
though,
one was
sure.
this one was pretty hard, but but we got it done. We peeled the top off of we cut the branches, peeled the top off, and then we reached down in and basically grabbed the whole thing. We grabbed the stones out first, but then we grabbed the body of it, pulled it out, set it on the truck, and it was ready to go. We could take it to Roanoke and mill flour with it.
The other thing you found, one of the first things, was that metal shroud. You remember that? The cylindrical shroud?
Oh, yeah.
That's a funny storyline with this episode because you immediately go, that's a coffee table.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And we'll get to that later, but he's found that too. So corrugated, let's see, I wrote safety issues may collapse.
Right.
There was a whole segment there when we were skinning that one building with all that rusty corrugated metal.
And that turned out to be, when we looked for that after a long time. I mean, after that episode, because that was such pretty,
it was consistent rust,
real
patina.
tight corrugation, and just good stuff.
Some of that, the second time in a row, we're teasing an upcoming build with Jack Brown's. We used that.
Yes.
For the bar front and the backdrop for that 1940s front end.
All right.
Teaser, spoiler. Mike Pay, Jesus nail. Mill surround coffee table issue. These are my notes I'm reading out loud.
Well, what was the issue with it?
We'll talk about that in a minute. Robert said you had tunnel vision at one point and were just cutting and banging, and he was freaking out, going, let me out of here. I'm going to get it down. He goes, not before I leave.
Yeah, smart guy. He had a lot of self-preservation in his blood, and I was just a cowboy. Like I said, I'd ride it hard.
Sure.
And it's
made for good television.
It's who I really was. I had muscle back then, and I'd overcompensate. Just okay, I can do this. And then I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nowadays, I say I used to be able to do that. Now I don't do it.
Well, smart.
Well, you got to try to walk across the finish line.
It's fun to be around, though. It was like, Dad, it really is Superman.
Yeah, that's one of those things like, hey, hold my beer. Watch this.
Not far from it back in those days.
Of course, we weren't drinking and working at the same time.
I wrote chainsaw on crane boom - Pay's idea. If you look back, technically, it was Mike Pay that said, what if you walk the boom with the chainsaw? And so that's what we did.
Yeah. Well, he had the direct line to the 911, so that was always good to have somebody like that. And Mike's a great guy. He's still here. He's a captain in the
I see him every now and again.
The force.
Cool.
Yeah.
But picked the whole roof of this structure up with the crane and set it down versus trying to skin it from underneath.
It's just get it off. And once we did that, it was a lot easier to do. Because this structure really wasn't in very good shape.
No, that was the whole through line, was that this thing with very little persuasion could just fall down.
Yeah. So we took what we deemed necessary and got it on the trailer.
Yeah.
Got it on the boom truck.
Right. And this, I think, was one of the first real times I was operating the crane with any potential consequence. I'm sure I played around with cranes before this, and I knew how hydraulic equipment worked.
Yeah, you had.
I remember this felt like a big moment for me.
Yeah, well, you play video games.
You gave me that cred, and I was like, oh, that's special.
Well, you gotta hand over the mantle. It's the hammer, so to speak.
You jump back on it later though to finish the job.
Yeah, cool. Everybody was pretty much qualified. I mean, everybody, you, me, and Robert.
Yeah.
But we had done it before.
So then we had that whole action segment, and the episode cuts back to Ted in the shop. Ted was starting to cut apart the old world iron panel to make this bar console, and he said something that made me laugh out loud. He said, Mike's a real stickler when it comes to getting stuff square, which made me laugh because I've found that that's not always the case.
Well, I've got a weird eye. I can tell when something's not plumb.
Yeah.
Especially if you have put four legs sticking straight up, and they all should align as you walk around the piece. And if they don't align, something's wrong. So I'll pick that up immediately. Although, I build with a lot of, what would be a good word for it?
Artistic expression.
There you go. There you go. So it's
artistic freedom.
Right. I meant for it to be like that. And that's really, but it's and Cam and I talk about this all the time. And I'll walk in and see one of the guys doing something, and I'll go talk to Cam and say, "Go look at those legs." I said, they're off, and he'll see it immediately too, and then correct it. So I just kind of use the chain of command.
So if it looks right. I mean, I'm obviously kidding. I'm not riding you that hard.
No,
it was one of the things we went back and forth about in the shop. But if it's right. You can look at something and know if it's right.
Yeah, I mean, it can be off a fraction. I mean, a 32nd, and you'll still see it because of the alignment.
Seeing the parallel lines.
That's right. When they all disappear together, you're good.
Yeah.
If you see one little tip sticking out, you're not.
At the very least, they're all wrong in the same direction.
If you do that, if that's what you intend, they're square.
So it was front and sides out of an old world iron panel. He was making a glass shelf and a wooden top. They didn't show the wooden top being made. They just showed some of the cut.
Did they have I didn't watch the episode. So did they have the reveal on that?
Later. Did that later.
All right.
But, the reveals at this point were just like, hey, look what it is.
42 minutes.
We're good. We're coming in the home stretch
All
here.
Right. Just click.
Play an intermediate. All right. Welcome back to the Black Dog Salvage podcast.
That's not what I was pointing at, by the way.
No, that's a good counter.
Yeah.
So to conclude the salvage, lifted the stones off with the crane. One of them had their own lifter
grabber
things.
Yeah, and they would have to Ben Hassett, the guy that we brought in.
Yeah, he appraised it later in this episode.
Yeah, actually. he's a millwright.
Well, let's just get to that. Okay. So we got it off, loaded it off, came home as one unit. The last bedstone was connected to the original linkage. Made it a little hard. We cut it, said goodbye, high-fived, and hit back to get it appraised.
Yeah, so we called. We didn't know what we had. Well, we kind of knew what we had, but we didn't know if it had any value. And it was hard to find a comp for a little compact mill like this. And so we contacted Ben Hassett.
Ooh, actually, right before this, you had taken the metal cylinder that was like a cap to one of the stones. Immediately, I hit a button, sorry. In fact, in this episode, this was the second build because it showed you and Lonnie taking that cylinder down into the shop, steel wooling it, cleaning it up, cutting the corrugated metal into the pie pieces that went around the center.
Right.
You just immediately let's crank out a coffee table. And they, I guess, filmed it because it happened so quick. Looked cool. Awesome, by the way.
It was a cool piece. It still had some stenciling on it from the manufacturer.
Yeah. And so that was basically done. And then Ben Hassett comes in to appraise it. Walks through everything else. He commends us for keeping it all together, pulling it out as a unit.
And we learned a lot with Ben because, like I say, he's a millwright. So he'll build you a mill. He'll build you a windmill. He can do all that.
Impressive.
He's probably still doing it. And it was such a young fellow going like, man, you got a lot of knowledge for a young guy.
Right.
He was probably in his 30s at the time, but still, it's younger than me. And so it was. He educated us on what we had, and telling us the difference between a French stone and a domestic type stone, and the way they're cut and put together. And so we learned a lot through him. But this wasn't a French stone because a French stone would have a band on the outside.
Oh,
that would be because French stones had many pieces, so you could replace them if you needed to. I guess. Again, I'm just ad-libbing here. But it was he told us we had something that could be used again, and that and everything worked on it. We could even, of course, I turned the shroud that held the stones into a coffee table, so it didn't have that. But,
well, no, you did. It didn't leave. So in fact, before you even sold that as a coffee table, Ben tells you guys that the set all together, complete, could be worth $5,000 to $10,000.
Oh, cha-ching!
And at that point, Robert says, "That is not a coffee table. That is staying with the mill."
That's right.
Because it's more valuable when it's complete. And Ben, I think, reluctantly gave you that news that
okay.
It's more valuable when it's
and
all
I'm
together.
Okay with that, but it's only more valuable if somebody buys it. And we had this thing for a while.
Yeah.
We brought it inside, and we were a little worried that somebody, because it still worked. You can still turn the wheel and get the stone spinning.
Pretty impressive, really.
It really is. And, of course, this is still a roller mill, grist mill, I guess they call it. And they were strategically built around communities. You know, they would bring the wheat to the mill to turn into flour or whatever you were going to grind to.
Right.
And the consistency, and so it was pretty cool. And they're still we've run into a few of those since then. Not too many with the grist mill with the stones, because those stones became great landscaping.
Oh yeah, and as you said at the close of the episode, as soon as we sell one part, it's open season.
Yeah,
I'm going to part the rest of it out.
You have to, but of course we sold it to someone who kept it intact.
Good.
They didn't want the shroud, by the way. So
coffee table, baby.
Coffee table. It became a coffee table. It looked great too. So
it did. It looked awesome.
So we got it home. We saw Ben. What else did we do that on this one? This is kind
of funny.
Was
pretty much it. The saw you make the two builds. The Ted's build was finished. Right. Old World Iron was a console. I guess the only thing that made it a bar was if you put a whiskey bottle on it. Well, it was really just a wood top console with a glass.
Well, consoles
shelf.
Are 30 to 36 inches tall.
Console's like a skinny wall table, hallway table.
Bar is 42-ish inches tall.
So it's kind of table and a bar.
It's kind of funny. One of the first projects that Robert and I did together, as far as building, was a bar. And I didn't know the
makes all kinds of sense.
I didn't know the specifics of a bar, so we went to a local bar. We took a tape measure with a bar napkin
for quote unquote research.
Research, yeah, it was all we wrote it all off, and we figured out the attributes for a bar, which is 42 tall. The recess are 10 to 12 inches from the edge of the bar to the face of the bar.
The bar front.
Yeah. So when you say belly up, you really never belly up, because if you do, your knees are going to hit. So there's a lot of math involved with the ergonomics of furniture.
Right.
And a bar is a very specific piece of furniture.
It's got to feel right.
It does.
It'll make you stay there longer and keep ordering.
Well, yeah.
drinks.
I'm sure there's some science to it, but at the end of the day, it's comfortable. It's what fits. Now, we're programmed as North Americans, and really around the world, but here our standards are pretty specific. A chair is 18 inches tall. Right, a coffee table is 18, an end table is 24, a console and a desk and a table are 30.
Table settings, there's certain length of tabletop versus plate settings.
A setting for a person, a minimal is 24 inches. That's kind of your shoulder width. And then, a gracious place setting is 30. So you can add those up. So you can do that math when you're ordering a table or buying a table.
Right. How many people you want to sit at?
Yeah, and then when somebody says, I want 10 people and it's a 6-foot table, I say, well, you can't do it.
You're going to be real uncomfortable.
Yeah, you got to go with people you really like.
Yeah, 4 and 1.
Yeah. So I mean, we do that every day. I was talking with somebody today about a table and how many people they want to sit on. It says, we want 8. I said, that's 3 on either side, 1 on the other end. Perfect. And that's an 8-foot table. So it's kind of fun, and everybody, we don't think like that. We don't think that we're programmed, but we are. If you sit at a desk that's 32 inches tall, you'll know it.
You don't.
Yeah. Well, you'll do it, but it's got like something's wrong here.
Yeah. You know and it's right. You may not know why it's right, but you know that it is right.
It was kind of like this, but I hit the sinker on my seat.
Yeah, come back up.
There it is.
Oh, man, you've been a little short guy all episode. Now you're up top here.
I'm feeling like I'm on top of the world.
Well, and that was basically episode 4, season 1 of Salvage Dogs.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other. I did notice that the crane was from Hertz Rentals, and there was tape over that logo, too. So this started the Greeking of brands and other brands.
They must have done that early, but they didn't do it for 5 seasons.
Yeah.
At least 5 seasons. We didn't get blurred or taped because the network really didn't pay much attention to us.
They were letting us do our own thing.
We were kind of their bastard stepchild, but we were selling ads and they didn't care. So
and being able to promote our business.
We promote our business, have our own logo
free.
on it.
Yeah.
Well, not for free, but
True.
It was a promotion. But we would also kind of do subliminal product placement, and we didn't get paid for it, but we got paid in kind, like khaki, what's it called?
Mountain khaki. Yeah.
and
Leatherman,
United Rental, Carhartt.
Paid in kind means we will, instead of compensate you with money, we will give you our product for free in hopes that it will be used on your production.
And we were always hoping that we would become something and somebody would pay us cash for doing it. But the networks make their money on ad sales.
That's right.
And so,
in fact, most online platforms, multimedia companies, broadcasting networks, all the money, if not most, comes from ads.
Yeah.
That is your attention is one of the most valuable products.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where, people pay money to put your eyeballs on their products.
Right.
And it works.
Yeah. Well, the
vehicle is paid well.
And they make it difficult now to fast forward through the ads.
By the way, thanks for listening and watching to the ads on this episode.
Here we are whoring ourselves out.
Ads suck, but ours are great.
Ours are wonderful. Whoever's advertising, they're great.
Speaking of ads, do you have anything you want to promote with Black Dog these days? Anything?
We got our. We're still doing this end of the year, so we're coming up on the holiday season. We had our open house last Saturday, and we're going to have probably every weekend from now to the end of the year. We're going to have a quasi open house, which means we're going to have food, beer, music, and extra vendors. And it just was a great success last weekend, and just had a lot of traffic. And we just do it. I mean, we're capitalists. What can I say?
Sure.
We do it to make money, but it was fun. It's a fun vibe, and Black Dog Salvage is a fun destination.
Sure,
it's
is
a fun place to go, especially if I show up. It's always,
that's right.
It's always a little better.
You can get your in-person cameo.
Well, exactly, and they're free. I just I enjoy talking.
You're good
to
at glad
folks.
handing, man.
Well,
you're good at it.
People come to see what this is, and you don't want to disappoint them, because we've got a good reputation of being those guys.
Yeah.
The fun, we're just
family business.
They walk up to us and act like they know us, and really they kind of do.
Man, you watch 143 episodes of anybody, you probably know them better than they know themselves.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but we watch Tay grow. I remember watching Grayson and Gracie, and Ted and Robert and I were we were grown. Although Robert didn't have gray hair.
You saw that happen
when it started. So, and he was freshly cut. He was, four square, military-ish.
Ted didn't have gray hair either. Actually, his got grayed out a little bit.
It was grayish.
Yeah,
grayish. But Ted's got a head of hair. I mean, if you guys didn't pick that up, it gets.
He had a voice back then too.
Yeah, no kidding. He did lose his voice there at the end. It's real gravelly. But anyway. That's kind of the fun part. That's the only thing I got to plug right now. We got the paint. If you haven't been to our website and seen the paint, go to furniturepaint.com. Yes, we do have that logo.
You have the domain furniturepaint.com?
Furniture Paint.
Nice get.
It cost $5,000. But it was worth it because it's what we do. And that paint is awesome. And we've done a relaunch of it. Just did a little short with Swooze today.
Nice.
It's good stuff. It's furniture paint. It's everybody says it's chalk paint. I said no, it's not. It's an acrylic latex.
If it's still set to do what it should do, then there will be an ad for the paint at the end of this.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's been a standing ad at the end of the
cool.
episodes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I know everybody will be happy.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's about all I got. We're just hanging out, finishing the end of the year. Elections are behind us. We want to go political. Everything's going to be okay. Everybody just remember to breathe, okay? It's going to...
Here, together. That felt good.
That's right. Just be kind to each other, okay? It's paramount. Like Joey the Clown used to say, be kind to each other because we're all we got.
That's it.
All right.
Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. As always, leave a comment on the YouTube version at the Black Dog Salvage's YouTube channel. Drop us a question, and we'll answer it at the beginning of the episodes. You can find this podcast Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
Everywhere.
And I hope you guys are liking it. We're having fun doing
I always
it.
say we're like Chicken Man. We're everywhere. We're everywhere.
Chicken Man.
Now, that's a very old
I only know that reference.
Radio show throwback. So check it out. It's pretty funny. The Adventures of Chicken Man.
Drop a comment if you remember
He's everywhere.
that.
He's everywhere. Bark, bark, bark.
And on that note, like, subscribe, comment, share, rate, all those things. Thank you guys so much.
Check Tay out at liftdarkstudios.com.
That's right. If you want to support my personal mission, Lift Dark Studios is on YouTube. I'm a custom metal fabricator here in Roanoke. You can buy a sticker on my website. Of course, buy some Black Dog merch, get you some hats, get you some stickers, get you some shirts.
Yeah, everybody's got something to sell. So that's the first thing that I Googled when we got our show. He says, how do you make money in reality TV?
Merch.
Have something to sell.
Yep.
So there you go. We got it.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We will see you next week. Dad's already watched that episode. So.
Oh, it's good. It's the James house. It's awesome.
Hey, see, at least now we know which one's coming up.
I've got the sheet right here. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. And Jeff Lanner, my friend, he is our one of our first producers. Sent us a text the other day and said that it was fun just to sit and watch you guys talk about what we did together.
That's special. He was a big influence and a big part of the machine.
He still owes us a rap party, by the way.
He's the guy that tried to pay me $20 to drop a stained glass window.
I told him if he'd have come out with some real folding money, we'd have done it. I'd have done it. Anyway.
Tune in to see if that happens. See you next time. Thank you, guys.
Be good to yourself.